Hey guys, Caitlin here at Finishing Touches. Today we're going to be working on our second paint kit. It's going to be Abstract 101, a spin-off of the class that is typically hosted in shop. And we're just going to be doing a smaller version with the paint kits and a couple substituted tools. So we'll be using plastic palette knife along with one brush with a flat top for this. For the tutorial purposes, I will still be using my metal palette knife and a larger brush to keep the process moving a little quicker for myself. So if you have your palette knife, your paintbrush, some water, and your pots open, we'll get started. We're gonna divide our canvas kind of visually into 3 sections, and we're gonna grab our yellow color first and just wet your brush a little, dry it off, and then we're gonna go in and grab our yellow, and we're gonna paint this top section of our painting. So as we're filling in the yellow, just long strokes back and forth, and then we're also going to do up and down to kind of fill in that canvas. We don't want to go quite halfway down, but it's okay to have this uneven line here because we will be hiding that as we move along. Also be sure to paint your edges. Once all your yellow is in, we're going to go ahead, clean off our brush, dab it back on the paper towel, and we're going to get a little light blue on our brush. So same thing here. Now we're just going to do the light blue as a belly band on the painting. So visually I'm going to find that middle, kind of create my end line, and then fill in the rest with the light blue. Again, we're just doing lines left to right, up and down to fill it in, but I always like to end on left to right strokes. And then on this one too, we also want to paint our edges. So after we have our light blue in, we're going to go ahead and clean off the brush again, dab it onto our towel. We're going to go ahead and pick up our darker blue color. Just for the purpose of filling in the darker blue a little easier, if you are working on an easel or an upright surface, you may want to flip your canvas at this time. So again, this entire section now is going to become this darker blue color, and it's going to kiss right up to the light blue. I had a little drip happening there, which just tells me that my brush was a little too wet, so I'm going to go in and grab some more paint and just dab lightly on my paper towel. And when you're doing this, you always want to remember less paint on your paintbrush is better. You can always add more. If you go in with a too heavy amount, you're going to end up with drips, or if the brush is too wet, you're going to get unwanted drippings on your painting. So you can always go back and make adjustments, but less to start and add as needed. So my brush is getting a little sticky on me, so I am going to do another touch of water and a little more of the dark blue. I'm going to go and finish these edges. Spots that aren't taking too well to paint, so I'm just gonna rub the brush over them and then flatten them out with long left to right strokes. And that is our first section of block painting, so we have all 3 sections plugged in right now. Alright, so next up we're going to do a little blending on this. What we're going to do is make sure our brush is very clean. We're going to grab some of our white with our brush. We're going to try to just soften this line where the yellow is hitting the light blue and then the light blue into the darker blue by adding our white. You really just want to paint that right over the line. And then same for where the light blue is kiss in the dark blue, and where I kind of had an imperfection before, this completely erased that with the white. And again, you're going to notice I did a very, very little amount, because you can always go back and add more on this. So next is going to be where we're going to start having a little bit more of our abstract fun. We're going to grab our palette knife. So whichever palette knife you were given in the kit, you're going to want to go ahead and grab right now. And the knives all have flat surfaces to them. So what we're going to do is grab some paint on either side of the flat surface, and then we're going to use this knife almost like we're frosting cookies to kind of pull paint across the canvas. And there really is no wrong in this step, so you can kind of have fun with it, but you know, watch me first and then go ahead and have a try at it. So to start, I'm going to grab the green color. I'm a lefty, so I'm going to do strokes that are from the right to left and then back. You're just going to set the paint in, and then from here, we're going to jump to different spots with our palette knife. You're going to hear this little whooshing sound. That's a good sound. You want to be hearing that knife against the canvas happening. So right now I'm using this green color to kind of move your eye around the canvas. Alright, so for this point on in the painting, we are going to just be sticking with our palette knife. So same thing as before with the paintbrush, we want to clean off the palette knife, and then we want to make sure it is fully dry before we grab our next color. And so from here, we'll go in and we'll grab a little purple. We're going to try to use all of the colors that are in the paint pots. And I'm just going to patch in these colors in spots that visually are making sense to me and feel right to me. If this is not what's working for you, you can also go ahead and add these colors where you see fit. I always like to stick to around these middle lines as a little extra cover up, and then add some into the top and some into the bottom. Once we got our purple in, we're going to go ahead and clean off again, and we're going to move right on to the pink. Now the pink I'm going to kind of shadow to our purple spots, so go ahead, pink up here, touch in the middle, and then some through the top. Depending on how this is going for you, a couple tips to kind of think about is that you really want to keep a light hand during this, so you don't want to press too hard on the canvas. So really just a soft back and forth motion. Hear that scraping, and then you know, you're feeling out what type of marks you're creating as you're pulling the knife across the canvas. So now is a good time to kind of reevaluate the spots you have everything laid in, and then we're going to go ahead and add a few colors that already exist in the painting onto it, just to add some dimension and contrast to what we already have going on. So in this dark blue section, I'd like to add a little more of the dark blue. We're going to go ahead and just grab that. And we're literally just going to scrape over what we already have laid down. And you can do as much or as little of this as you like at this point. And we're going to do the exact same from there. I'm just going to wipe the palette knife clean. And we're going to go in and grab a little bit of our light blue. Laying right over our light blue area. You can see from where we had painted earlier to now where we're using the palette knife, you're just creating like a different tone in the paint texture. So clean that off. And the last scraping color that we're gonna do is some little pops of white throughout it. I'm just taking a look right now to kind of see where we need a little eye movement happening. I'm gonna add a little more back up to here, this corner, and then I'm gonna hit these corners down in the bottom. So again, at this point, this is kind of your preference. If you are making a mark that you really like, try to stay away from it. Don't hit it again, don't cover it up. And if you have a mark that you're really disliking at this point, now would be a time to go in and try to cover it up with some white. Your white's gonna be the strongest color on your canvas right now. So say I didn't like the way this line was ending for me. Just grab a little extra white and add that top of white over it for some layering and hiding. All right, so now with all of our colors laid in, we did our block coloring to start, and then we went in with the palette knife to create our dimension and some overlaying textures with colors. I'm going to take my easel right now and just flip it so I have a flat surface. And so for this portion of the painting, if you were working on an easel, you are going to want to remove it from behind the canvas and lay your canvas flat on the table. Okay, so I have my canvas now on more of a flat surface angle, and I'm just gonna take the painting, put it down, and we're gonna start to add a little splatter throughout the painting. Again, this is a portion of the process where you can do as little as much as you like. And we're just gonna go back to grabbing our brush. So your flat angled brush, and we're gonna wanna just play with the bristles a little on the end. I know this isn't typically recommended, but for the purpose of splatters, you really do want to get a really good frayed brush at the bottom. In my own collection, I have splatter brushes that I love to use that I kind of work down and peel off to the sides for this purpose. You don't want to do too much because you don't want to ruin your brush. If you have other brushes at home, you could definitely experiment with doing this to one of them. So just fluffing this brush, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back to the green color. It's one of the darker colors that we have to work with today, so it's going to show up nicely when we splatter. When you get the green, I always like to mix it into the top of the paint pot, and then you're really going to want to add a nice amount of water to that, and that's so that the paint can come off the brush a little faster when you're splattering. So for this, all we're going to do is go directly over your canvas, and you're going to tap the top of the brush. Don't tap too hard because you don't want your brush to fly out of your hand, but you also do have to put a nice amount of pressure. So start lighter, add pressure as you go. Like on that. So now I'm tapping, I'm not seeing a lot of paint coming off the brush. I know I have to go back in, reapply. So I'm going to go right into that top part of my paint pot that I had added that water to, grab a little more paint, retap. All right, so I'm not getting much coming off again, and that tells me I need to dip directly into the water. So don't go all the way in, but just kiss your brush into your water. Come back and go directly over, start your tapping. Happy with that for the green color, and at this time I could go in and add some additional colors, which I will do. Alright, so we just got all our green splattered in. I'm gonna return this back to my flat surface, and I'm going to continue to splatter with, you can pick two colors of your choice. I'm going to go with pink and white to finish this off. All right, so I just just got my pink and white splatters added. And that is it. So that completes Abstract 101. Something that's fun about this is if you do grab another canvas on your own, you probably have a lot of paint left. You could experiment with the color order that we use and play around with that. When I do teach this in studio, I love to use a tan on top, a pop of color of choice on the bottom, and gold in the middle. And then go in with your palette knife and layer on from there. So just a little something fun you could try at home if you're ready to give it another shot.